I wonder if the levels of heaven are not as much about a place you will go where you will be eternally happy, but more what you were capable of. Like at this level, you are actually capable of being happy. You're living your life in such a way that happiness is even possible for you. And so maybe that's why it's like, oh, people could visit you in your lower level. Yeah, like people in the higher levels could be happy. Is that what it is? Is it just a complete frame of mind, like an actual just frame of mind? Everyone's all together, but everyone's in such a different frame of mind. Some people are in hell. Some people are in heaven. Some people are telestial, some terrestrial, some celestial, and then the top 3 kingdoms in the celestial kingdom as well. Are these just levels of happiness? And it just gives you kind of a metric to gauge where you are. It's just like a happy little line across the path that says, you are doing things at a terrestrial level or at a telestial level. You are living your life in such a way, here's your metric, now you know where you are. So then you can know, like, maybe give you some clues on what steps to take next. Maybe. It might literally be an actual planet you go to when you die. I don't know. But also, it really does seem like some people are living in hell and some people are living in heaven. And what's the difference? And I think it has very little to do with material possessions. Mammon. The things. That's what I think mammon means. I've never really had it explained to me what mammon means, and I realize that's probably because most people disagree or don't know. But here's my working definition. To me, I think mammon means just the stuff. The stuff, the external reality. Even it could be so far as dealing with the worries and cares and like all the stuff in external reality. Like dealing with it in an external reality kind of like practical way. I think maybe John Juan would call that the rational man versus silent knowledge. Maybe. The rational man being the man dealing with mammon, the mammon man, the money man. I use money as a tool. It's not always my life pursuit or my life goal. Here at the storage unit. Just moving things around, moving the mammon around. Is that what it is? It makes sense if that's what it is. I think that's probably the definition. But I could be wrong. So now, basing the rest of my understandings off my definition that may or may not be correct. That's the thing. That's the whole thing about the foundation thing. Your knowledge, your foundation built upon a rock, built upon Jesus, if your foundation, he's like, this is a solid foundation though. Like, that mammon foundation might not be solid. I don't know for sure. My calculus foundation, the italicized t equals triangle x, time equals a change of position, t equals delta x, right? That formula, I think I heard in math as a young child, but maybe I got it wrong. I was told that I got it wrong. And so my understanding of time as a change of position could be completely faulty because my foundation is faulty. Now on that one, I don't think it is, because I still think the words hold true of time as a change of position. I think it still makes sense to our actual lived experience anyway. But do you see how foundation stuff matters? Like, if my mammon foundation, well, maybe it doesn't matter that much if you have an understanding other ways, but if you are starting to build your foundation, I don't know what I'm going with this. If you're starting to build your foundation, it's important to have some kind of like rock, right? Some kind of like core thing. Like, as a child, you'd want to give your kids like core foundational stuff. But how do you do that? I've been trying to tell my kids about the I am thing since they were born practically, and they're just kind of like everybody else. They get it though in other ways. I think it's overall better for them for the exposure, but sometimes I wonder if I shouldn't do the exposure for anyone, if everyone just needs to discover it on their own. And I was going to say the way I did, but I didn't discover it on my own. I had lots of help. Don Juan, Headlessness, Alanis Morissette, ICP, Carlos Castaneda, who is Don Juan Carlos Castaneda? And like, what is this? Oh, that stuff, that was foundational. But like, we build our foundations as small children. If I have an incorrect definition, then my foundation is not as solid or as rock bottom as I thought. So I'm actually being very surfacey when I like say stuff, when I go to church and just say stuff based on what I understand. Sometimes that's very surfacey, and sometimes digging a little deeper beneath that surface can be scary because it's not the same words. It doesn't look the same on the outside. You have to hear it. You have to hear it out, weigh it out, judge it out, see if it matches. It might be your understanding got made a little better. But I know everyone's scared. You have to be careful of that stuff. There's lots of false Christs in the last days. Lots and lots. Lots and lots of like false prophets, false teachers, false Christ saying, here, come here. And look at how many cults. Look how culty the world is. Yeah. But that's an easy one to predict because human nature is just culty. It's just culty by nature. Like, we are just culty, I think. Maybe it is just our day that we're just exceptionally culty because we're like all seeking for the truth of what's actually going on here. Science and religion both seeking the same thing. What's actually going on here? And science seeking after the mammon part, right? What's going on here in external reality, and religion, spirituality seeking after the spirit part. What's going on here with consciousness? Like, there is a consciousness we can't really measure in science, can we? We can see that it is there in science. We can see scientifically that consciousness exists, right? Wave particle dual slit experiment. That showed us that. Quantum mechanics showed us that. Quantum stuff. Quantum science. Teeny tiny science. Teeny little, teeny tiny, teeny tiny, teeny tiny. Where it looks like reality is kind of just this jumbly up mess. Anyway, consciousness is shown to be an existing thing, scientifically even Mammon says, even the rocks say God exists. Even Mammon says that consciousness is real. I also wonder if it's kind of backwards. When you build on a foundation, you're building up, right? But sometimes we talk about knowledge is getting deeper, digging deeper in. Your roots are going deeper down. Maybe it's both. It's like a tree with roots and branches all around. It's likely nothing like we could ever describe consciousness and understanding and foundations and like knowledge and awareness and increasing understanding of what's going on here and to what end and what for. Is it nefarious or is it good? Sometimes it seems nefarious because the world is objectively really crappy. Could be a nefarious being farming us here, harvesting our loving feelings. That's why we don't have any loving feelings anymore, because all the love's being sucked out by this giant mega consciousness who's like, yes, love each other. That's a good thing to do. And as soon as we do that, it sucks out our souls into anger and dismay because it's eating us. It's sheep, right? You're my sheep. Be my sheep. But if somebody's lost, let's get him back. Get him back in line. Get him back to the fold. Does it really benefit a sheep to rebel? Can they actually get away with it ever? No. I mean, yes, they could, quote, get away with it, but then they're just living in the scrub off in the wilderness somewhere, slowly starving to death with no friends or family. Is it really like they're going to have a sheep rebellion and take over the planet? No. Maybe the planet will take over us because of the sheep. The planet will say, you know what, you guys are just kind of jerks. We're going to do some upheavals here. We're going to get rid of you. No. But so is that what it is? Are we just like livestock for some super being and it really doesn't matter if we rebel or not? Like, we really can't get out of it. We can't get away from it. We're trapped in this like weird cage. The only way out is when we die. Maybe we're the being though. We're food for our own self. That'd be weird. That can't exist in reality though. It's like that. I always get that. Someone always comments on me about the real scientific laws. That's the second law of thermodynamics. That could be. Well, that breaks the second law of thermodynamics. Okay. That's cool to know though. That's cool to know that there is a law of thermodynamics and what that means. I feel like that just kind of points to an eternity, but for some reason those people also don't believe in that. Something they've seen scientifically has scared them or saddened them, opened their eyes to the truth. I just don't think they got their eyes open to quantum stuff though. I don't think they got their eyes open to the I am thing or consciousness. So yeah, the cold dead universe idea is kind of depressing. Okay. So that's a depressing thing. So are we sheep or are we sons? I think it's also pointed at that we're sons. I had some kind of idea the other day. I don't even know what it is now, but it's something like maybe we're sheep when we're lost and we're sons when we're found and we're equals when we walked the path. we've been there a while. That's the inheritance, is becoming equals, right? The prodigal son, he comes back and he's the inheritance, right? That idea that's there. And then it's like the inheritance, typically you inherit things when your parents die or when somebody dies. You get it. You're usually, I was going to say that's equal. That means that we are now equals. We're like equals with God, but I don't think that would be a good analogy. I was just thinking that's the progression, right? From sheep to you're just like an animal, to a son when you're learning, to an equal like the father when they inherit all that the father has. Equals. And that's what the Mormons believe will become like God. But I think that's pointed at in the Bible even. It's also pointed at that we're going to go to heaven and there's going to be no men, no male, no female, no marriage, no bond, no free, nothing. It's just all of us all together. That's in the Bible too. Mormons who don't believe everything that's in the Bible, who accuse everyone else of doing the same thing. Well, they haven't read this passage about, the works matter, because Jesus does say, many will call on me, Lord, Lord, and I'll say, I know you not. What are you talking about? Get thee hence. When I was in prison, he visited me not, that kind of stuff. And it's like, see, the works matter, and nobody else, none of the Christians listen to that, do they? The Mormons listen to that. But then there's the people in heaven's description where nobody's married. I don't know which it is. It does make sense that we'd all be there, though. The second law of thermodynamics, right, says that. I'm just guessing. It could be the first law of thermodynamics. I don't even know. I don't know them. I just know they exist, and I know roughly what they're about. So the energy can't be created or destroyed. It just is. Well, what happens in a black hole? It's crazy. It's creepy. I don't want to go in one of those. That seems like a bad place. As a consciousness that's potentially tied to matter, I feel like matter in one of those might be doing some weird stuff. Who knows what it's doing, though? Will we ever know? Are we a part of it? To know? To be able to know? Ooh, that would be interesting to know. To know for real, too. Not just guess out based on numbers and stuff. Numbers give us a good guess, right? But it would be nice to know. But I don't want to actually have to go there. I don't want to have to go. But sometimes you have to go to know. Sometimes you actually have to go to www.headless.org and actually do the experiments in order to know what it is. Maybe it'll be a catalyst for you as well. So yes, we build our foundation off of other people's words and ideas, right? If language didn't exist, we would just have an understanding of existence, maybe. I'm just thinking, like, how would we ever build that foundation without others? Just by thinking about it. But there's so many ways. Other people's descriptions of what it is really help to paint a picture. I don't know. I think it's taken a long time to get where we are socially and morally and societally. Is that all just going to go away, though? Like, could it go away? I feel like Christian foundations on behavior are so expected now, I think that is going to carry forth. Like, we just expect that the poor among us should be fed. That's just an expectation in our society. When that doesn't happen, we get offended. We expect justice to happen. We get offended when these things don't happen. I think that's a good indication of good, solid Christian foundation. But the funny thing is, like, the self-proclaimed Christians are almost on the opposite side of the fence, and the self-proclaimed, I'm just going to generalize, Democrats, because no Democrats are Christians. No Christians are Democrats, right? These people, they're wanting benefits for other people who are poor. That's good. I mean, that's a good, solid Christian idea, and I think that's why they get so offended at the supposed self-proclaimed Christians who don't believe in that, right? But they don't understand that the so-called self-proclaimed Christians, who actually really are Christians, therefore prospering, even though it's not really about mammon, but it could be. So that's why there's wheat and tares, because there's mammon people, and then there's Christian people, and they're growing up together because they're both prospering, because you prosper when you live the gospel of Christ, typically, I feel like. But that could just be because I'm in this country that's really nice to live in. Why was it so nice to live in? I feel like we all kind of started with the same stuff originally. If we all originated from the same place, what is it, in Africa? We started with the same stuff, same resources. I think there's even less resources in the north. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's resources based. Somehow we've just prospered. I think it's cultural, maybe. So there's some values in the culture that make it so we prosper really well. But maybe people are trying to get us to prosper less because we're taking over the planet. So we need to go back to being more warlike and horrible. I think that might be really what's going on. It's just idiotic. Like, we could be rational, though. You don't need a force and control. Force and control model is making it worse. Remember, like, if you force and control, like, well, I'm going to make everybody be good. We'll just go back to the way it was. We'll just get rid of this really prosperous culture. We didn't get rid of that. That's way too prosperous. Prospering too much. We're overtaking. But as a prosperous culture, we also could be reasonable, and, like, most people, I don't know about most, but a lot of people don't even want to have kids because they just, well, it's enough, There's enough going on around here that we can just be interested in the things that are happening. We just kind of, like, the population will level out normally. We don't need to, like, artificially make it good, because that just makes it bad. I think we can just reasonably assume that anytime we are artificially trying to make something happen, well, artificially, I say whenever we are trying to direct the happenings, we muck it up a lot. I mean, we have to interact and live in the happenings and do our part, but trying to force the other happenings to happen, I don't know. There's probably some kind of line or balance. Anyway, yes. So I do think it's good to talk about this stuff. I think it's good to talk about foundational stuff. And I think it's good to talk about it and to really get to the basement bottom level so the next people can have even better foundation. As long as the foundation's based in reality. And I think that you could just talk about it. People could give other sides and see. Like, it's just kind of what it is, isn't it? Just try to talk about things and figure out what's going on here. And maybe people have a different idea. And maybe the truth will make us free.